You think you know your neighborhood? I thought I did too, until I realized the smiling faces who waved across the white picket fences every Saturday were ready to bury my grandparents under a mountain of fines just to line their own pockets. My name is Emily Parker. The day I crossed the stage at Northwestern with my law degree, I wasn't thinking about bar exams or big firm offers. I was thinking about the stack of papers I'd signed 3 hours earlier in a quiet downtown office. Papers that turned my grandparents' beloved Victorian into an unbreakable fortress against the Oakwood Estates, HOA, and its Queen Bee, Karen Whitaker. The graduation ceremony looked picture-perfect on the surface. Proud families, tears, hugs, the whole Instagram-ready show. My grandparents, Robert and Helen Parker, sat in the third row, Grandma dabbing her eyes with that embroidered handkerchief while Grandpa tried to hide his sniffles behind his thick glasses. They'd raised me since I was 7 after my own parents decided get-rich-quick schemes mattered more than their daughter. But that morning, before the cap and gown, I'd met with Marcus Whitfield, an estate attorney who specialized in what he politely called neighbor asset protection. "Miss Parker," he'd said, sliding the thick folder across his mahogany desk. "Once you sign, this trust becomes irrevocable. The house, the portfolio, the antique collection, everything is shielded. No HOA lien, no for sale. No one touches a dime without your signature. $3 million. That's what 50 years of careful living had built. The Painted Lady Victorian worth $1.2 million alone. Grandpa's blue chip stocks, Grandma's 19th century American art. And Karen Whitaker had been circling it like a shark in a pastel cardigan for years. I signed every page without blinking. The idea had taken root 6 months earlier at what should have been a harmless block party. Karen had shown up in her signature HOA polo, clipboard in hand, fake smile glued on. "Oh, Helen, darling. That rose bush is just a tad over the 3-foot limit, again. And Robert, the mailbox post is leaning 2 degrees. We can't have that, can we? For the community." I watched Grandma's hand tighten on her lemonade cup while her smile never wavered. Karen's voice dripped honey. "Maybe it's time to consider something smaller, more manageable. The market's hot right now. You could downsize and really enjoy your golden years." That was the moment I knew. Karen wasn't worried about community standards. She was already mentally redecorating my grandparents' house, while her husband eyed the commission from the developer buddy who wanted the lot for a McMansion. The rest of the board, her little echo chamber, nodded along like trained seals. I started paying attention after that. Every weekly HOA email suddenly targeted my grandparents. Grass 0.2 inches too long. American flag up on a Tuesday, yes. Really? Porch light bulb, not energy efficient enough. Fines stacked like Jenga blocks. And Karen always ended her notices with the same sugary line. "We're just looking out for everyone's property values." I wasn't the first victim. I'd seen what she did to old Mrs. Kowalski 3 houses down. One missed birthday card to Karen's community newsletter, and suddenly Dorothy was slapped with $12,000 in back fines. A lien, and forced into a state facility while her son, Karen's golf buddy, bought the house at auction for pennies. Poor Dorothy just couldn't keep up, Karen had sighed at the next meeting, dabbing fake tears. The neighborhood ate it up. I ate nothing but rage. Standing on that graduation stage, diploma in hand, I looked out at the crowd. My grandparents beamed with pride. Karen sat 3 rows back in her president's sash, already texting someone about updating the violation list. She had no clue that 3 hours earlier I'd pulled the rug out from under her $3 million fantasy. The house, the money, the antiques, now locked in an irrevocable trust with me as sole trustee. My grandparents kept lifetime rights, but no lien, no foreclosure. No Karen could touch a single shingle without my say-so. The fortress was built. All I had to do was wait for her to slam into it. Growing up in that Victorian under the HOA microscope felt like living inside a snow globe, beautiful, protected, and completely separate from the Karen chaos outside. The house stood proud on its tree-lined street. Painted lady exterior hiding 3 floors of memories that belonged more to me than to the board that wanted to bulldoze it. I remember being 7, suitcase in hand on the porch, watching my parents' car vanish. They were off chasing another investment. Grandma took my hand. "Come inside, sweetheart. I bake your favorite cookies." That room with the window seat became my sanctuary while my parents bounced between schemes and states. Grandpa taught me chess in his study, surrounded by first editions and the faint smell of the pipe he'd quit years ago. Grandma showed me how to tend the garden, bake bread, and love the Tiffany lamps not for their price tag, but for their stories. Meanwhile, Karen's world was all about control. On the rare weekends my parents took me, I'd hear them complain about those nosy neighbors while they plotted their next con. But Karen? She was the ultimate con artist with official letterhead. The first time she seriously tried to crack us was during my sophomore year. Grandpa had a mild heart scare, 2 days in the hospital. Karen and 2 board members showed up at visiting hours with a folder. "We're so concerned," she cooed. "We think it's time for a competency review. For the community's sake." Of course, we could appoint a temporary manager for the property until things stabilize. I was 20, pre-law, and I knew exactly what that folder really was, a backdoor power grab dressed in pastel concern. "Get out," I said, stepping between her and Grandpa's bed. "Before I call security." Karen's smile never slipped. "You're being dramatic, Emily. We're just helping." But I'd already started learning elder law, HOA loopholes, and every trick adult children or adult Karens used to rob seniors legally. The stories horrified me. Retirees finding a bankruptcy, homes auctioned while owners were still breathing. Karen was a master, so I became better. The memory that still burns is last Thanksgiving. Karen dropped by with a casserole and accidentally photographed Grandpa's investment statements while pretending to admire the china cabinet. "Just curious about neighborhood values," she laughed when caught. That night, I sat with my grandparents by the fire and showed them the stack of violation notices, the emails to developers, the texts bragging about another easy lien. Grandma cried. Grandpa aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "We wanted to believe the board had our best interests," he whispered. "They don't," I said, "and they never will." The warning signs exploded during my final year of law school. Karen's calls to my grandparents jumped from monthly to weekly, each one laced with the same syrupy manipulation. "Robert, you sound tired on the phone. Those stairs must be killing you. Maybe it's time the board steps in for your own good." "Helen, I heard the Johnsons down the street had to sell after their kids helped with the fines. The market's hot right now. You could get top dollar and move to that lovely retirement village we recommend." But the real gut punch came in February, 3 months before graduation. Mrs. Kowalski's house finally went under the hammer after Karen's crew tacked on $18,000 in aesthetic violations. I watched Tom Kowalski, Karen's golf partner, direct contractors while laughing about profit margins. He waved at me like we were old friends. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Mrs. Kowalski in some sterile facility, fully aware her community had stolen everything. By morning, I'd made the call. The next week, I sat in Marcus Whitfield's office and laid it all out. "You're not worried about natural decline," he said, leaning back. "You're worried about manufactured incompetence." He sketched the plan: irrevocable trust, ironclad documentation, medical evaluations proving my grandparents were sharper than most 40-year-olds. Convincing Grandma and Grandpa took weeks. They resisted because admitting the threat meant admitting the neighborhood they loved had turned on them. The breakthrough came when I showed them the private investigator's file. Court records of Karen quietly settling with 3 other elderly owners after falsified violation reports and pocketed administrative fees. "My God," Grandma whispered. Grandpa reached for her hand. "We have to protect what we built, not from the rules, but from what Karen's become." 2 weeks later, we sat in Marcus's office. Both grandparents passed cognitive tests with flying colors. The neurologist's report became Exhibit 1. As Grandpa signed, he looked at me. "They'll come after you when they find out." "Let them," I replied. Meanwhile, Karen remained blissfully unaware, too busy patting herself on the back for beautifying the neighborhood. I overheard her at the spring HOA meeting bragging to the board about one more big lien, and we can finally redevelop the Parker lot. They were already dividing the spoils in their heads. The irony would have been delicious if it hadn't made me sick. Over the next weeks, I built my war council. Marcus, Dr. Sarah Brennan for capacity evaluations, and James Torres, ex-FBI turned private eye who'd seen every HOA scam imaginable. James uncovered the gold mine. Karen had been opening community improvement credit cards in residents' names, falsifying violation photos, and skimming dues for her own renovation fund. "She's systematic," he told me. 5-year plan to force out seniors and flip houses to her developer buddy. The hardest conversation happened on a rainy Thursday. I laid everything on the living room table while the fire crackled. "They've been writing fake medical concern letters to your doctor. They're building a paper trail to declare you incompetent." Grandma went pale. Grandpa's jaw clenched. "Our own neighborhood," she whispered. "Because they're addicts," I said gently. "Addicted to easy money and control." Grandpa surprised me. He pulled out his own manila envelope, 20 years of receipts, unpaid loans to board members, missing heirlooms pawned after Karen's inspections. "I kept hoping they'd change," he said. "But you're right. They never will." With that evidence, Marcus turned the trust into a fortress. Every asset cataloged, photographed, insured. The house transferred with life estate rights. Even the security cameras went up, cloud recorded, documenting every interaction. 2 weeks before graduation, Marcus called with ice in his voice. Karen hired a lawyer, Michael Grayson. He specializes in breaking trusts and forcing sales. "They've already requested your grandparents' medical records." They weren't waiting anymore. They were coming for blood. I called the emergency meeting. Marcus was blunt. "They'll claim you manipulated them. They just need enough doubt to drag this into court and bleed you dry with legal fees." That's when I made the call that changed everything. "We file first. Elder abuse protection order against the entire board, Karen especially." The room went silent. Grandpa squeezed my hand. "Do it. I'm tired of being afraid in my own home." The paperwork dropped the Monday before graduation. Karen still had no idea the trust existed. She thought she was hunting easy prey. She had no clue she was walking into a trap I'd spent 2 years baiting. The call came at 2 a.m. on a humid July night, 6 weeks after graduation. Grandma's voice was steady but strained. "Emily, your grandfather's had a stroke. We're at St. Mary's." I drove the 90 miles from Chicago in 60 minutes. Heart hammering. This was the moment Karen had been praying for. Grandpa was conscious when I arrived. Left side weak, but mind razor sharp. "Don't let them know yet," he whispered. By noon, Karen and 2 board members had somehow heard and swept in like concerned neighbors, clutching flowers and legal forms. "Robert, darling, we're here for you," Karen cooed, loud enough for the nurses. "Whatever you need. The board can step in and manage the property while you recover. Standard procedure for community protection." Her lawyer Grayson slid papers onto the bedside table. Standard power of attorney forms. Once signed, the HOA can ensure all affairs are properly managed. Grandpa's eyes met mine. "No," he said clearly. Karen's smile cracked. "Robert, the stroke. Your judgment might be impaired." We only want what's best. I'll play my first card. Dr. Brennan. I said into my phone. We need the capacity evaluation in room 314. Grayson's eyes narrowed. Who is that? The neuropsychiatrist who's been monitoring Grandpa for 6 months, with baseline tests proving superior cognition. Karen's mask slipped. Rage flashed for half a second before she switched to wounded victim mode. We're his neighbors, practically family. You can't keep us from caring. Marcus appeared in the doorway, right on cue. Verbal harassment in a hospital can get you removed. The battle lines were drawn. Over the next week, it became a siege. Karen's crew camped in the waiting room, trying to corner Grandpa alone. I slept in the chair by his bed. Nurses quickly picked sides. One even accidentally spilled coffee on Karen's forms. Then James Torres called with worse news. They broke into the house yesterday while you were here. Ryan, Karen's son, learned locksmith tricks online. They photographed everything. Found the old pre-trust portfolio. They know the exact number now. $3 million tends to bring out the worst in people who are already the worst. That night Grandpa squeezed my hand. They won't stop now. Then we won't either, I promised. Grandma spoke up from her chair. I want them out of our lives completely. Whatever it takes. The restraining order was approved the next morning. Karen would be served within hours, and the trust's existence would hit her like a freight train. I watched from the second-floor balcony as the process server handed her the papers in the cafeteria. Her face went from confusion to disbelief to pure volcanic rage. She did what? She screamed. Coffee flying. Security dragged her out while she shrieked about ungrateful residents. Within 3 days, Karen's team filed a countersuit. Undue influence. Elder abuse. Fraud. They painted me as the greedy granddaughter who'd isolated my grandparents and stolen their home. They even produced witnesses, 2 neighbors with fresh cash in their accounts, who swore I'd forged signatures. But we were ready. James dropped the bomb. 20 years of documented HOA fraud. Falsified photos. Skim dues. Credit cards opened in residents' names. The forged new will they'd planted, dated 2 months ago, leaving everything to Karen's community fund, was notarized by a notary who'd lost her license for fraud. The hearing was set for August 15th. Karen leaked sob stories to local news, kept from caring for dear friends by a manipulative child. She would try to get me fired from my new firm. But Dr. Brennan took the stand and destroyed them. These are 2 of the sharpest seniors I've ever evaluated. Any claim of incapacity is laughable. The forensic accountant laid out Karen's 15-year pattern of targeting elderly owners. Grandpa himself testified, still weak but voice steady. Your Honor, I know Karen wants my money. She's wanted it for years. The stroke affected my arm, not my brain. The judge's ruling was brutal. The restraining order was upheld and expanded. Karen and the entire board barred from coming within 500 feet of my grandparents. Their property, or me. As we left the courthouse, Karen hissed at me. This isn't over. That house is ours by right. I knew she meant it. Marcus, I said in the parking lot. What would it take to file criminal charges? The forged documents, the fraudulent liens, identity theft. We have enough. Grandma nodded. File them all. The police arrested Karen and her son Ryan 3 days later at the motel they'd been using as command central. Charges: forgery, identity theft, attempted elder abuse, fraud. As she was led away in cuffs, Karen glared at me with pure venom. You think you've won? But behind the hate was disbelief. She'd never imagined the quiet little granddaughter would be her downfall. They made bail within 48 hours. But the criminal charges changed everything. Desperate people make mistakes. The mistake came on September 3rd, a cool Tuesday morning. I was helping Grandpa with therapy when vehicles pulled into the driveway. Karen, Ryan, 2 hired inspectors, and a U-Haul. They're violating the order, I said, reaching for my phone. Grandpa gripped my arm. Let them come. The cameras are rolling. They marched up like they own the place. Karen had an old key, copied before we changed the locks, but it didn't work. She pounded on the door. Open up. This is still community property. I cracked the door on the chain. You're in violation. Police are on the way. Karen waved new papers. We have a new compliance order, signed by the board. It supersedes your little trust. Ryan smirked. Grandma's been so forgetful lately. She probably doesn't even remember agreeing. Grandma appeared beside me, holding Grandpa's old service revolver from Korea, pointed at the ground but very visible. Get off my property, she said quietly. Wisconsin has castle doctrine. Emily taught me that. Everyone froze. Karen's face went white. The hired muscle stepped back fast. Sirens wailed in the distance. But Karen still tried. This is your doing. Emily, you poisoned them. Marcus walked up the driveway with James and 2 uniformed officers. Actually, Marcus announced, she protected them. And we've been live streaming this entire interaction to a secure cloud server. Attempted breaking and entering. Fraudulent documents. Intimidation with a crowbar. Oh, and those 2 gentlemen will love explaining their presence to the police. The movers sprinted for their van and peeled out. The officers stepped forward. You're all under arrest for violating the restraining order, attempted breaking and entering, and fraud. As Karen was cuffed for the 2nd time in 2 weeks, she snarled, I'll spend every penny to destroy you. The officer cut her off. You have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. Ryan was crying now. Emily, please, I'm basically family. You were, I said quietly, which makes what you tried to do even worse. The live stream went viral by evening. Federal charges followed, crossing state lines to commit fraud, embezzlement of HOA funds across multiple victims. Patricia Thornton, the federal prosecutor, didn't play games. Karen's looking at 15 to 20 years. Ryan might get 5 to 7. They tried to run 2 weeks later, jumping bail like the cowards they were. But the FBI caught them at the Canadian border with fake IDs. No bail this time. The day of sentencing, I sat in the front row with my grandparents. Grandpa's recovery had been remarkable. He walked with just a slight limp now. Mine sharper than ever. Grandma held my hand. Karen and Ryan looked small in their orange jumpsuits. All their HOA swagger stripped away. When the judge asked if they had anything to say, Karen stood. I half expected an apology. Instead, she glared straight at me. I hope you're happy. You destroyed the community. The judge cut her off coldly. No. MS. Whitaker, you destroyed it the moment you decided your neighbors were nothing more than dollar signs to raid. 16 years for you. 14 for your son. Court dismissed. As the bailiffs led them away, Karen turned one last time. Our eyes met, and I saw it. The exact second she realized she'd lost everything. Not just the house or the power, but the illusion that she could bully her way through life forever. She'd gambled her reputation, her freedom, her future, all for a $3 million house that was never hers to take. And she'd lost it to the granddaughter she'd spent years smearing as the troublemaker. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I gave them one line: HOA abuse is real. And it often comes from the people who claim to protect us most, the ones with the clipboards and the smiles. If you see it, say something. Don't wait until it's too late. That was 6 months ago. My grandparents are thriving in their new secure condo in a gated community with 24-hour security. We sold the old house to a lovely young family who actually follow reasonable rules. The art collection went to a museum with a plaque honoring Robert and Helen Parker. The rest of the trust is diversified and bulletproof. Karen and Ryan are serving their sentences in separate federal facilities. The Oakwood Estates HOA was dissolved after the scandal. New bylaws were written with actual resident oversight. As for me, I specialize in HOA defense and elder protection law now, helping seniors fight the Karens of the world before it's too late. Last week I got a letter from Ryan. He's in a halfway house, finally learning honest work after court-mandated therapy. He apologized and thanked me for stopping them before they ruined more lives. "You saved us all," he wrote, "even if Mom will never see it that way." Standing on the balcony of my grandparents' new condo, watching them sit peacefully in the evening sun, I think about that 7-year-old girl on the porch with her suitcase. They took me in, gave me everything, asked for nothing except that I grow up to be a good person. I became something more. I became their protector, their guardian, their revenge against every clipboard-wielding tyrant who thinks rules are weapons. My name is Emily Parker. I put the HOA Karen who terrorized my neighborhood in federal prison to protect my grandparents' $3 million home. I destroyed the fake community that tried to rob them. And I'd do it again tomorrow. Thank you for listening to my story. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been targeted by an HOA Karen? Share your experiences. If this tale of sweet justice hit home, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more HOA Karen takedowns. Your support helps more families fight back. See you in the next one. Stay vigilant. Neighbors.